Okay, so today's video is going to be quite a lot different to my normal sort of beauty everyday videos. Today is going to be a video on driving. Now, I've been contemplating making this video for a while, and I kind of wanted to be more experienced driver when I film this video. So yes, this is what I'm doing today. I'm kind of going to give you a bit of advice and my sort of top tips on learning to drive and also passing your test. Now, I am by no means at all, no way, an expert in this. I'm just basically going to tell you my experience and what I found best through learning to drive and pass my test, etc, etc. And now since I passed my test, I can kind of give you my thoughts and views on it. So yes, I hope this will help some of you if you're currently learning to drive. Okay, so I started learning to drive, I think it was the 28th of September 2015. Yes. So I started learning then and I passed my test on the 16th of June 2016. So I've been driving ever since the 16th of June, obviously till now, and hopefully forever. So yes, but yeah, I started when I was 17. Obviously the legal age in the UK is 17, but I think it's 16 in America, I'm not entirely sure, but yes. Yeah, I wanted to learn to drive as soon as I turned 17, like that was the aim I wanted to by. And I actually did pass my test while I was 17 as well. So yes, first step of learning to drive is obviously getting an instructor. Now you could do it where you just get an L plate on a car, but you have to have someone who has a driving licence and is over the age of 21. But I didn't want to do it that way, I wanted to get an instructor, and I felt safer if I knew I was in a car which had dual control. So that was the first thing that I need to do, is obviously get an instructor. Actually, my friend Caitlin, she had just passed her test, and I had the same instructor she had, just because I knew Caitlin was a really good driver, and I thought, okay, I may as well just have the same instructor as she did. So yeah, he was a really good instructor, and he was very calm. It's a big issue of mine because I'm a very stressy, panicky person anyway, so to be in a car and if I did something wrong, like my initial thing was to panic, but I knew, like even now actually when I'm driving, I don't panic in the car, which is strange because I'm such a panicky person normally. I never panic when I'm in a car because it's just not worth it. So yes, that's something that was good. Also, I think sometimes it helps if you have for example, I had a male instructor. I don't know why, but I feel like, and I've spoken to boys who've had a female instructor and they've worked better. I don't know whether this is a fact, but for me personally it worked. So yes, maybe try that. Or for example, if you're a girl and have a female instructor and you're not quite getting along, I think sometimes, not to be mean or anything, but I feel like female instructors can sometimes be a bit more panicky. So yes. So that is my first kind of advice, is to get a good instructor who is calm, won't panic, and maybe is the opposite gender. I'd also recommend having at least 1 or 2 lessons a week, because sometimes if I left it, for example, I'd 1 a week, but then I'd kind of not forget, I have to like relearn and teach myself again like the following week. Sometimes you kind of forget things that you've learned, so it's good to have at least 1 or 2 lessons a week so you can kind of get that consistency. And for example, if it takes like a few lessons to learn a particular thing, then you kind of get that into your belt more quicker as well. That was something that I found helpful. I mean, sometimes I couldn't have, so there might be a week where I couldn't have a lesson, or a couple of weeks I couldn't have a lesson, but I tried to kind of get 2 in a week. Especially coming to your test, you kind of have to have quite a lot to make sure you're okay. Now actually, I think the tests are changing. I'm not sure if they have already, but since I took my driving test, I think they are changing. But when I was learning, you obviously just had to learn to drive, and then you had to do 4 manoeuvres. I think it was 4. You had to do turn in the road, reverse left, round a corner, bay parking, and parallel parking. My favourite was always the turn in the road. I do those all the time now as well. Like, probably the one manoeuvre that I use the most is the turn in the road. So yes, I was learning in a manual car as well, so which obviously is harder learning in an automatic. But I feel like even if you are going to use an automatic car, learning a manual car, because that will mean you will always be able to drive any sort of car. So yeah, for example, like I have a manual car but my mum has an automatic car, but obviously I can drive her car because I know how to drive any car, if that makes sense. I know driving can be really, really scary. It's a scary thing. I remember my first lesson I ever had, I was terrified. Now, if you haven't had your first lesson yet, don't worry about it, because basically all they do is kind of go through everything about the car, everything you're going to be learning, how to use things, gears, clutch control, that kind of thing. And that's the first lesson that you'll have. But at the end, I sort of had about 10 minutes where I was actually driving. And I just remember sitting in the driver's seat like, oh my god, I'm actually driving a car. I am actually in the driver's seat driving a car. It's a bit mad, but you will get used to it. You'll get used to that feeling of being in the driver's seat. But yes, it is a daunting and scary experience, because you are on roads with a lot of cars and you are driving your own car. You are in the driver's seat, like the one behind the steering wheel. So yeah, but don't panic. If you do have an instructor, then you will have dual controls. That means they have a clutch and a brake as well. So don't panic. They can always stop the car for you. Don't worry. I do know how much of a scary experience it is, but I used to get excited as well for lessons. I'd have a mixture of like scary and excitement. More towards the start, I was quite excited to learn how to drive, but then as it got nearer and nearer to my test, but don't panic, everything's fine. It's also worth noting as well, people take longer to learn, they learn in different ways. People are slow at learning, some people are really fast, they can pick stuff up like that. I'm a more slower learner, so it took me a bit longer to learn how to drive, but I didn't really mind. I preferred to take my time and go at my own pace and learn things and make sure they were right, you know, and actually learn how to drive. I've got a few little notes here. So I've also written, don't think about driving or your lessons until you're in the car, because I always used to get really, really anxious and nervous like half an hour before I had my lesson. I don't know why, because once I got in that car and once I started driving, I was completely and utterly fine. It was that moment, like that half an hour before, I would get so anxious. I still don't know why that happened, and I've spoken to friends when they felt exactly the same. I think it's just the kind of, you're just nervous for what's going to come, you don't know what your lesson's going to be about, you don't know, you know, where you're going to be driving, what you're going to be doing, how your driver's going to be. I think that's probably why, but I used to get so anxious. But just try not to think about it until you get into the car, because otherwise you'll just be a bit of a mess. Everyone will make mistakes. You will make mistakes. 100% you will make mistakes. It's fine. You are learning. And anything that you learn, whether it's to play the piano, play the guitar, to sing, to ride a bike, to drive a car, everything is a learning process. You have to learn. You will make mistakes. It's just a process of life. Like, there's probably no one that has been able to learn to drive a car and made no mistakes. Like, it's going to happen. Even if you did an intensive course, like for a week, you're going to make mistakes. It will happen. Maybe try not to make like massive mistakes, like crash the car. Please don't do that. But you know, simple little mistakes, yes, it will happen. You might change into a different gear by accident. I still do that now and I've passed my test. So don't panic about it. If you make a mistake, I always felt really like, after I've done it, and I couldn't concentrate for like the next like 10 minutes or so. But if you've made a mistake when you're learning, try to put it to the back of your head, because you can't do anything about it. It's done. Just learn from the mistakes. Okay, now obviously you had to do a theory test as well. Now this, honest to God, was the bane of my life. I hated it. However, it is something that is essential and obviously you have to learn. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, it took me 4 times to pass my theory test, just because I just didn't really, I don't think I really learned everything. Like there was a lot, and I mean a lot to learn, and it's so hard. Like the pass rate is so hard. You've got to get 43 out of 50 in the questions, and then I think, I can't remember what the hazard perception was. I was literally, the first time I did it, I got 42. I was fine in the hazard perception all the way through, that was fine. It was the questions, like first one I got 42, next one I got 41, next one I got 42, and I eventually passed. I think I got 47. But try and do your theory as early as you possibly can. Like, it doesn't matter, as soon as you start learning, basically do your theory, because I left it quite late. I could have done it way earlier, so I think I passed my theory maybe like February, March time. I can't actually remember, but it was sometime early 2016. So just get your theory done because it's something that is necessary. I got the highway code book, and basically what I should have done was just read through that. That's what I did, and that's how I passed for the 4th time. But I also got an app on my phone which is really useful because you can give you all practice questions, and it's obviously all multi-choice. But honestly, it sounds really easy, but it's really, really not. Once you look at the questions, it's so hard, and a lot of the questions and a lot of the answers are actually the same. So you're like, well, it could be that one, or that one. So yes, I would suggest really practicing hazard perception. I didn't find that too hard. You just basically have to click when you see a hazard. You can practice that online as well. So basically just do loads and loads and loads of practice things for your theory, and you should be okay. I know it's very hard, but you will get there eventually. Then you will have your driving test once you are ready. Don't kind of think, I should be ready in a couple of weeks now. Your instructor will tell you when you're ready to take your test. You won't be put into your test until you are ready, because there's basically no point. If you're not ready, you're not going to pass your test, basically. So I'm not going to lie to you. Again, I passed my driving test the 2nd time. Now, I don't think that's too bad because so many people who I've talked to have passed their driving test 2nd time, or even 3rd, 4th, so I wasn't too worried. Now, the first test I did, I was so nervous, and that's what made me fail. I just panicked. I did something that I would never normally do, and yes, and I knew kind of once I'd done that, I knew I wasn't quite ready, so I was glad that I took a couple more weeks to reassess, to just practice driving again. And once I'd actually, the 2nd time I went to take my test, I knew I felt so much more confident, and I did that test and I passed it. Actually, it was a really good test. I had a really great test route. The examiner I had was really lovely, and it all went really well. I basically made no mistakes. You were allowed, I think it's like 13 minors maybe. I think I had 3, I can't quite remember. So yes, I was really happy with it, and it went really well. I'll never forget the day I took my test. But yes, a few tips if you are taking a driving test. Make sure you get your breathing under control. I remember just before my test, I literally felt like I was going to throw up. I felt so sick. But basically, you just got to take your time, breathe, get your breathing back to normal, breathe at a normal pace, and just concentrate on your breathing. Don't think of anything else. Don't think about the test. Just think about your breathing. Just breathe, have some mints, something to kind of just take your mind off it a bit, and you'll be fine, I promise you. Once you are taking a driving test, just think, drive how you normally drive. Don't change the driving, just drive like you would in one of your lessons. Just drive normally, how you would, how you've been taught. Do everything the same way. Do not change the driving for the test. Don't panic, breathe, you will be fine. Also, if you're on your test and you feel like you've made a mistake, or you feel like you've done something wrong, don't think about it. Do not think about it. Don't think whether you passed or whether you failed. Don't think about that. Just concentrate on purely driving, because that's what I did the 2nd time, and I found that helped so much. I didn't even think, I was like, I'm not sure whether I passed or failed, I'm really sure. Once I'd finished my test, that's when I thought, I actually don't know whether I passed or failed. I knew I hadn't made a big mistake, I knew I hadn't done anything, so I was like, okay, I passed. You kind of drive back into the centre, and I just remember sat there, and he had to total up everything and check everything, and I sat there going, I don't know whether I passed, I don't know. And then he was like, please tell you that you passed your driving test. I was like, yes. I just remember feeling so excited. So it will happen. As I said, it may just take a bit longer. You may have to do your theory a couple of times, you may have to do your driving test a couple of times, but you will get there eventually. Also, don't be afraid to tell your instructor or the examiner if you are feeling really nervous, because I think it will come across in your driving. If you feel anxious or nervous, they will be able to tell. So just feel free to tell them, and they'll completely understand, because pretty much everyone will be feeling the exact same. So yes, feel free to tell them if you need to. But if you are learning to drive now, or thinking about learning to drive, don't think of it as a scary thing. It's really exciting. You are one step closer to being able to actually drive, get your own car. Like, I love driving now. I just love it. I've got a Fiat 500 in white, if any of you are interested, and I got that on the 23rd of June, so a week after I passed my driving test, and I've been driving ever since, and I love it. So yes, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below or email me. My email's in the description box below if you want to keep anonymous. And yes, I think that's pretty much it. Just breathe, don't panic, you'll be fine. I feel like I had more to talk about, but I think this video is way too long already, so I think I'm gonna cut it now. And I think that's about it. Don't forget to give this video a massive thumbs up if you enjoyed. Leave me a comment below, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel. I'll be back with another beauty video next week. Yes, I hope you're well. Lots of love. I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Lots of love.